All right, for more on the impeachment inquiry, we're joined by Dr. Charles Zelden. He's a professor in the Department of History and Political Science at Nova Southeastern University. Thank you very much for joining us.
Glad to be here.
We've got a lot to talk about. The first question I want to ask you is, Republicans are saying that this is not a valid impeachment because the Democrats did not call for a floor vote in the House. Is that a fact?
No, it isn't. The Constitution does not lay out any procedures for impeachment. It's up to the House to determine how to impeach. It's up to the Senate to determine how to hold a trial and convict. So while in the past there have been House votes to initiate impeachment inquiries, it's not required. And in fact, each of the three impeachment inquiries we've had so far, Andrew Johnson in the 19th century, Richard Nixon, and then Bill Clinton, they followed different procedures in how they initiated, organized, and ultimately ran their impeachment proceedings.
It's a pretty rare event in history of this country.
And rightfully so. This is not a step you want to take
right.
if there's any other option available.
So let's talk about Vice President Mike Pence. There are a lot of questions about his role in the Ukraine story. Today he gave a full-throated defense of the president. Let's listen to that.
The president spoke about lack of European support. He spoke about corruption. And he tasked me to go and to meet with the president of Ukraine and carry our concerns about those issues. And anyone that looks at the president's transcript will see that the president was raising issues that were appropriate, that were of genuine interest to the American people.
So he's definitely on board. And if this impeachment inquiry reveals deliberate and nefarious acts by the president and the vice president, is that a constitutional crisis?
Well, what it means is that there's the potential of 2 impeachment hearings and 2 trials. The vice president is just as impeachable as the president. The only difference is that the Chief Justice doesn't preside over his impeachment hearing. Actually, as the Constitution's written, the vice president presides over his own impeachment hearing. I know, it's a quirk, oversight. But the reality is that if they find that the vice president was involved in potentially impeachable actions, the House can just as easily impeach him. And if both are convicted, say hello to President Pelosi.
All right, speaking of Nancy Pelosi, she and Adam Schiff, who's the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, both say that they want to do this as expeditiously as possible. Do you see that playing out?
Yeah, I think this is, well, it's only because there's an election coming up. I think the Democrats are going to want to make this go as quickly as possible. I think they're going to focus primarily on this one crisis, the transcript of the president's call to the Ukraine. There may be some information, an article dealing with getting in the way of justice.
Right.
But generally, I think they're going to keep it focused, narrow, specific, an easy tale to tell, and then move it along. Because you understand, ultimately, the jury they're playing to is not the jury of the senators. They'll convict or not convict as they wish. It's we, the jury, we, the people. Because ultimately, this is all about how we're going to respond in the 2020 election.
But the senators matter. If the Republicans in the Senate drag this out past the election, we're 13 months away, then what happens?
Well, if the president is defeated in the election, then he has only 2.5 months to go before he's out of office. If he wins, there's still the need to hold the trial. But ultimately, I don't see the senators on the Republican side wanting to delay this, because this hanging over your head, it's actually worse than just ending it one way or the other. If they end it with a conviction, it allows Republicans to pick a new candidate. If they end it with acquittal, it allows them to move on and start arguing for why they should be reelected.
Well, 13 months of this for the American people will have them just dizzy, their head spinning.
Nobody wants that.
All right. Professor Charles Zelden from Nova Southeastern University, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Nice to have you.